Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore and I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, Maria Casillas. And today we're going to be talking about getting out into some other places, So and you're probably thinking like, Cody, what the heck does that mean? Don't worry, you'll find out very, very soon. But before we get into anything like that, I want to say a few things. Number one, if this is your first time checking out this show, we appreciate you checking it out. And hopefully you get some value. If you do, we would really love a rating, a review, you share the show, whatever it might be. That stuff goes a long way. We don't do any sort of advertising for this show. We don't get paid for this show. So your support really does go a long way. And for those of you who have been supporting for a long time, you've been listening to every single episode every single week. You are what we call our every weekers. And we really appreciate you because you guys are one of the reasons as to why this show keeps going. Your continued and devoted support is very much so appreciated by myself, by Maria, and everyone behind the scenes of the Financial Coaches Podcast as well. So if you guys want to connect with us, that's another cool way to be involved with this show rather than just listening behind a closed door. I don't know, maybe you listen to the show in secrecy. Who knows? But if you want to just put yourself out there and be like, hey, this is me, and we can be like, what's up? How's it going? A really good place to do that would be in our Facebook group. It's free to join. All you got to do is you just got to type into the Facebook search. You can type in the Financial Coaches Community, Buy New Money Habits. You press join. You answer a couple very basic questions, and bada boom, bada bing, you're in. And you can say hi. You can give suggestions for show episodes if you want to hear about something. You can ask questions. You can give us updates, whatever it might be. We would just love to be in contact with you and make a connection. So, with that being said, Maria, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Yourself?
Pretty good. I'm tired. I have been running with my hair on fire, if I even had hair. So, it's like my scalp is on fire. So, yeah, I've been really, really busy lately. So it's kind of catching up with me, but I'm good regardless. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Same. I totally get that. And I appreciate your honesty about that.
I think it's just that
Uh,
time of year.
yeah, it is. Even though I technically homeschool, we're part of a couple of homeschool communities and things are sort of winding down with those. And I teach in a couple of those communities. And so things are starting to wind down with those. But the wind down is always preceded by a ratchet up of more immediate and urgent things that need to happen. And so, yeah, just trying to keep all of those strings braided well has been a it's been a challenge. Let's just
Mhm.
say that. But I'm here for it. And if if we didn't have those challenges, we wouldn't know what to do with our lives, I think. so
Yeah, yeah,
so I think it's actually a blessing in disguise.
it
But
can be.
enough about that. Let's talk about getting out into other places, I think is how you stated it earlier. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm going to ask you actually, because this was your idea to talk about this on this episode. You're just trying to play it off like it's my idea. I don't know why, but that's what you're doing. So, so I'm gonna call you out on this. But
Okay.
basically, you were telling me about something that you and the New Money Habits teams have been doing recently. You also brought up, a coach that was in our space for a while, and some stuff that she had done. But essentially, it's just about like taking the program that you've made or the product that you have and expanding it, looking into different marketplaces for this, rather than
Mhm.
just more so of like the traditional sense of like one-on-one coaching or group coaching, but start to work with people outside of your own ecosystem to
Yeah.
expand things
Yes.
a little bit more.
Yes, love how you just wrapped that up in that last sentence, Cody. It's basically about no longer feeling like you need to be the one to basically pad the pockets of other people and their programs, but rather recognizing something that you have, something that is maybe unique to the marketplace, and then just being willing and vulnerable enough to take that out into your community. So, what you had mentioned about us, and this is not a plug for our program, it's just an example that I'd like to provide for people. New Money Habits, we've been working on Christ centered stewardship. It is a program that we created in response to a request from a couple churches. But they basically were asking us if we could bring in what they were used to, which was a different program. And we said, well, we could do that, but did you realize that we also have this difference in the stuff that we offer? And so we sort of kind of on the cuff created a program that was true to us, had a few differences to some of the other stuff on the marketplace, and then just basically trial and errored it. Like we took it to that church and we saw, kind of did like a beta program, what was well received, what could have been changed, and then we sort of changed that a little bit and then just got to hitting the pavement really and trying to get into other churches because that was the target audience for that particular program. So it just got me thinking about how often our listeners are like doing all of their one-on-one coaching and stuff, which is great. Even the group coaching is great. But is there a way for you to get your intellectual property out there into the marketplace? And so you brought up a previous colleague of ours, and I think I just love her story because she didn't even try. She's very shy. I don't want to say she didn't try to do this. She did, but she didn't do this with the end in mind, right? She did not think, "Oh, I'm going to partner with a bunch of different businesses." But what she did was recognize a call. Like a business asked her, "Do you have something that you could do to help us with our employees?" And she said, "I can certainly create something." And
Mhm.
so she did, and she just, she answered that call. She just did like what we did, a little bit of trial and error, give this a shot, see what happens, see what sort of feedback they have. And then the partner was basically the business owner. So Cody, she went and had the business owner hire her as a subcontractor pretty much to coach a bunch of people, and they paid as a benefit for their employees for her coaching to take place. And when she was able to see proof of concept there, then she had the confidence to go and offer that to other places as well. And the reality for that one is it happened just the way it did for us with the church. There was a personal connection between her and somebody else. In this case, it was for us, it was somebody with a church, but for her, it was somebody who she just knew as a business owner. And with that personal connection, she was able to try something new, prove the concept, and then take it to others who were unknown. So that's what I
Mhm.
just wanted to chat with you a little bit about today with some ideas for our listeners to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, and I think that it's something that I would say that most coaches probably don't think about a ton. They're kind of focused on like just building their coaching practice in the more traditional sense, in the sense of just like bringing on one clients or whatever it might be, kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or if they have thought about it, they're like, oh man, well, that just seems like so much work
Yep.
and I don't even know where to begin with this, right? So
Mhm.
for the latter part of the coaches, because now people have thought about it because they're listening to the show, right? So it's going through their head. So they're probably more leaning towards like that sounds like a lot of work and I don't know how to get started with that. For those people, what would you say to them? Whether it be, the first step that they should take, whether it be, just like a belief system thing around the whole thing, whatever it might be. I mean, what's your
Mhm.
message to those people?
I would say my most important message is create as you go.
Mm,
I think so many times we believe that we have to have this entire product wrapped up in a pretty bow and ready to sell basically to the
mhm,
person who's listening to us. And I think what the risk we run there is not only do we get in our heads about, oh, this is so much work, I don't know what I can do, da 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 da, but we also don't really know what they need. Like we're not we are basically serving a non-audience. We're telling them, here's the stuff that I'm able to present, but they might not need that. And so
Yeah.
I think just being one or two steps ahead of wherever whatever audience you're serving is a possibility, especially if it's going to be more like a beta program. And just be honest with that. Like, talk to somebody that you know. Everyone who's listening to this knows somebody. You either know somebody who owns a business or you know somebody who is struggling in their own financial stuff. And they also see that part of it's because, the coworkers are stressed out and all of that. And so find some ways to answer the problems for some of these people when you're going to talk to them, but only feel like you need to be ahead one or two steps. Don't feel like
Mhm.
you have to have the entire thing wrapped up in a bow.
I really like the create as you go kind of standpoint. And I would even say, like, if someone's looking for a tangible action step, um, write down, like, on a piece of paper, pen, whatever you take notes on, just write down like 1 to 3 different structural ideas that you could take with this. So
Mhm.
if you're working with, like, businesses and it's a benefit to their employees, that kind of route. If you're working with churches, that kind of route. And just have like a general idea of like, hey, this is what the program might look like. You don't need to have very specific, like, well, in this meeting, we're going to do that. In this meeting, we're going to do that. It's just a general idea. That way you have
Mhm.
something to kind of reference off of. So
Yep.
do that. And then after you do that, start reaching out to people,
Mhm.
reaching out to businesses, reaching out to churches. And then, like you said, asking them what they're looking for. Tell them generally what you provide. Ask them if it's something that they see value in, for their employees or for their customer base, whatever it might be. And then, beyond that, ask them like, well, what exactly are you looking for? And then you can then take that generalized kind of program or that generalized idea, and then you can start to tailor it to these companies, to these organizations, and then you can start selling it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that the step that most people hang up on is actually reaching out,
Mhm.
and that's the most important one because that's
Yeah.
that's where the answers lie of how you should build it, but also that's where the opportunity lies as well.
Mhm. Excuse me. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think, for not just for us, but also with the other colleague that we're talking about, I think one of the biggest lessons there is that we reached out to somebody we know. So don't forget about your
Yeah.
current circles of influence. I think that it is so overlooked so often because it's like, well, those are the people I work with every day. Like, they don't need any of this. If they needed that, I would know that. But that's not always true because not everybody talks to you about what it is that they want or that they need. And just remember that you're not always just asking, how can I help you? You're asking them, who do you know that could benefit from this? So go to the places that you're already going. If you are already going to church, talk to that particular person in charge at that church. That's a really, I was gonna say easy. It's not always easy, I get that, but it's more of a warm lead because they know you, they trust you as an individual. So that's different than some random person showing up at someone else's church going, I don't even know who you are. So that's something to think about. If you already are in a workplace, maybe you're transitioning out of full-time work into coaching and you're already part of workplace. Maybe you have a spouse. Maybe you have a sister, a sibling who is already in a workplace that you're recognizing that this is a possibility and you're talking to those people. Ask them because I just really do believe, Cody, that the I was gonna say the idea, but that's not right. But the relationship of people is so important, and that's, I mean, the whole adage: people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. It's not just that they know, like, and trust you, it's that they know someone who also knows, likes, and trusts you. So there is that necessity of, networking as well.
Hmm.
Start
Yeah.
where
I
you are.
mean, in other words, don't forget about the low hanging fruit. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, don't
um,
overlook that.
yeah, because that's probably going to be the route that has the least amount of friction for the
Mhm.
barrier of entry, you know? So
And they might have the most grace for you too, I
it's
mean, it could
also true.
there so
Yeah.
there's that. There is I will say this too, just so people don't think that we're, rosy coloring this. Um, there is that potential of them taking advantage of you because they know you.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility that they could string you along because because that's what they already know who you are and that's no big deal. So they might not show up for you the way that they might show up for somebody who's a professional stranger. So do make sure that you have your boundaries in place and lay out some of those expectations in the beginning. There's pros and cons to everything, but I do think that it's more of a low hanging fruit, like you stated.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So all in all, if you've been thinking about this, if it's ever crossed your mind, or if it's just now crossing your mind for the first time, um, and it's something that you actually feel like you see value in pursuing, take those first steps. I don't really know what's holding you back from that, but whatever it is, like just lay it down. Give yourself a chance. Just like how we ask our prospects to do when we're having consultations with them. Like oftentimes these people that we serve, they're stepping into something that they've never done before. And that takes a certain amount of courage. It takes a certain amount of trust as well. And it's the same exact process that applies to you as the coach for trying to expand your business. So keep that same energy and move forward with this. That's my biggest suggestion. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add, Maria, but that's what I just kind of want to like leave for the message for the listeners today.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great spot to end it.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you made it this far, we appreciate you hanging out with us today and listening to another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. Be sure to check in next week for another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast and plug in through that Facebook group as well. That way you can be constantly up to date with all the new things that we're doing and working on that's going to be serving you guys. So until then, you guys take care.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.